There is no need for April Fool's pranks with Mercury and Venus retrograde. In fact, those retrogrades is like the astrology April Fool pranking us. Hi all, my name is Comet. This is Magic Monday. Specifically, this is your Magic Monday astrology forecast for the week of March 31st until April 6, 2025, where we're covering all of the celestial happenings in the week ahead, as well as how you will feel these cosmic energies and themes threaded within your life, within your relationships, at work, in your kickball league, you know, whatever you got going on. This is the astrology that is going on while you're going about that. And I'm here every single week here in the cosmic corner of the internet with a cosmic beverage in hand, ready to guide you through it. And I would love to firstly just guide us all within a collective breath in and a collective breath out. Okay, now that we're all gathered and we're all centered, I wanted us all to take a collective breath together in order to check in, to debrief, to unpack. Because over the weekend, we had the solar eclipse in Aries, which is the final eclipse that we'll experience with this eclipse season. And it's not to say that the moment that that Aries solar eclipse exacts, that all of the eclipse season intensity and urgency and anxiety suddenly subsides. It's like the Aries solar eclipse was the boiling pot of water bubbling over. And as we walk more and more into April, it's like transitioning that pot to another burner on the stove. It's not that that boiling pot of water will go to lukewarm instantaneously, but with time, it begins to lower 1 degree at a time, getting a little bit chiller and a little bit calmer. And it's important to note that not every eclipse season uproots our entire life, and thank goodness for that. You know, if you've had certain eclipse seasons that are very turbulent and disruptive, you know that eclipse season can be a time that certain rugs are pulled from beneath your feet, certain lash outs and crash outs occur, certain new opportunities snap their way into place, whether you feel ready for it or not. Sometimes eclipse season shows up in this really dramatic way. And sometimes it just shows up around this sensation of anxiety, the sensation of urgency, even the sensation of questioning what you're doing with your life. Even can be very eclipse season coded. And regardless of whatever March 2025's astrology had in store for you, I will say, as we move into this week, there is a helpful opportunity for us to integrate what Mercury retrograde has brought to our awareness, what Venus retrograde has brought to our awareness, and what eclipse season has brought to our awareness. Because this week we have Saturn sextile Uranus. These are two of the outer planets in the cosmos linking up to help us out if we so choose to. If we so choose to. I know aspects is the topic within astrology that a lot of individuals who are newer to astrology, that can oftentimes make our heads spin, right? And I love to think of the planets as characters and aspects really as dialogue. Like Saturn and Uranus are communicating this week. And the nature of the aspect is the nature of the conversation that they're having. Like squares, those planets are fighting. Okay, they are crashing out and lashing out at one another. Trines, they're harmonious, they're flowing. We have 2 trines this week. We have Mars trine Saturn. We have Venus trine Mars. So those are planets that are vibing. Those are besties in the cosmos. Conjunctions are the planets fused together, like they are married. They are like the conversation that you have with your partner in life. And the conversation that Saturn and Uranus are having, these 2 outer planets, is a sextile. This is the sort of conversation that you would have with an acquaintance. It's like someone that you kind of know, and of course you're friendly, there's kinship and camaraderie there, and maybe there's an opportunity to deepen the bond, there's an opportunity to collaborate around, hey, I know you're into this, could you help me with this? There's an opportunity for that, but it does not necessarily indicate that it's going to be taken. An opportunity presented, but not always an opportunity taken. As with a lot of astrology, you got to meet it halfway. And that's why I love sitting here in the cosmic corner with you all every single week, because we really take a co-creative approach to astrology. These energies are happening, and there's opportune ones, there's not opportune ones. And it's up to you how it is that you really like leverage them and activate them, especially when it comes to an aspect as subtle, but as powerful as Saturn sextile Uranus. I want to highlight that Saturn and Uranus are outer planets. So they're slower moving planets. So this is not just energy that's available just this week. You could have felt this build last week. You could feel this separate as we step into next week as well. And with these two planets getting together, it can appear like they are complete opposites, right? Like Saturn being the planet of structure and rigidity and regulations, and Uranus being the planet of rebellion, of shaking things up. But with these two planets being acquaintances in the cosmos, like Saturn's like, hi Uranus, what's up? Uranus like, hey Saturn, what's up? You could leave that dialogue there. You could just leave it there and not really seek to work with this. But there's an opportunity around, how do I want to fuse this energy of what in my life may feel restrictive, what in my life may feel hard, what in my life may feel rigid, with change, with novelty. So you see the power in this, right? Like Saturn is what in our life can feel hard. Uranus can represent novelty. So it's like having a breakthrough, a new approach to something within your life that could have felt very restricted and very hard. It could be having a new approach to a responsibility of yours. It could be having a breakthrough as it relates to a boundary that you need to enforce or something like this. And typically with sextiles, as I'm noting here, there is a need to really like activate it or really take the opportunity that the cosmos are presenting. And that is even more emphasized this week because there's another character in this little cosmic conversation. Mars trine Saturn, and then the two of them sextile Uranus. So there's an opportunity for these planets to work together. And it does require your participation, especially with the energy of Mars being the planet of action, the planet of assertiveness and advocacy and motivation at that. You have to want a new approach to something that feels hard. You have to want to shift something that has felt very stagnant and very stuck. You have to want to have a breakthrough to have a breakthrough. And so with the energy of Mars trining Saturn sextile Uranus, a lot of us could feel like we're able to advocate for ourselves in a new way, take action in a new way, make progress in a new way. And when we consider that Mars is in its post-retrograde shadow, this could be a problem, a sensitivity, a passive aggressiveness that's been building with some time, that's been layering and stacking for some time. And there's finally an opportunity this week around, okay, you've been mad about this, or this has been upsetting you, or this has not been ideal, and you've been suppressing it and not acknowledging it. There's an opportunity here to shift it, to take what could have felt stuck and stagnant, and that's just the way that it is, and to empower a new result, to empower a new opportunity. And some of you might be saying, Haley, Comet, I'm still a boiling pot of water from that eclipse season. I need some time to chill out and calm down before I'm able to have breakthroughs around long-standing issues and problems. Again, no forcing, no rushing. We've still got some retrogrades. But there is an opportunity for new possibilities, new potentials, new ways of showing up if you so choose. If you so choose. So as you are choosing how you want to co-create with this week's astrology, let me know what beverage you chose to sip as we co-created. I'm sitting here with my bestie, something that I am in a trine with. If we were planets, we would be trining because this is my very favorite beverage, and I don't say that lightly. Like if you and I were to go grab a cup of coffee and talk about astrology, I guarantee at most coffee shops, my go-to will be what I'm sipping right now. When I was a barista, I would make like 3 of these every single shift. I'm not kidding. This is my jam. And this is a white mocha Americano. Ooh, white mocha Americanos are so good. Technically, I prefer it iced, splash of almond milk, the best. But my barista this morning messed up. She messed up. And my barista being me, obviously. I have this like steamer thing, and you're meant to like hit the steamer for cold and you just tap it once for hot. And I was just doing a million different things, getting ready for Magic Monday, making sure my water is right here, my lip gloss is right here, you know, all of the essentials here in the cosmic corner. And I wasn't paying attention. I just like hit the steamer and then was on with my day, and then it steamed it hot rather than cold. And I was like, you know what? All right, universe, clearly you wanted me to have a warm white mocha Americano. But regardless, it is so divine. And to be perfectly honest with you, I really need the caffeine today because I am preparing to go on tour. I'm coming to a city near you. I'm soaring to a city near you. So look up, look for a comet. If you see a comet, that's me. soaring across the country. And I'm just kidding. I'm not actually going on tour. It just feels that way because I have quite a bit of travel coming up here. So I have been just like filming and working like a mad woman, trying to get everything done to prepare for my journey all across the USA. I mean it. In the month of April, I'm going to be in Northern California, the Pacific Northwest, Midwest, East Coast. It feels like I'm going on tour. It feels like I'm taking this show on the road. But I'm trying not to take the show on the road. So I could just not be the girl with the ring light filming from other people's homes. You know, you guys are so great and so gracious when I do pop up in different scenery. But I'm gonna try, for everyone's sake, to get all of my filming done before I go on tour all across the USA. And without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into the vibe check of the week. So vibe check of the week is a segment that we do here on Magic Monday where we compare all of the energies of this week's astrology from the first quarter Cancer moon to Saturn sextile Uranus to us being fresh off the solar eclipse in Aries to Venus trine Mars. We take all of that and we compare it to a real life scenario. So that even if you're not familiar with the intricacies around, girl, thank you for the tutorial, but I still don't get the nature of each of these aspects, you can tune into how these energies will realistically surface within your world. This is not me implying that this exact situation will play out, but if you tune into the overall dynamics, emotions, and vibes, you may see that similar ones do surface within your universe. And so this week, we will say that you are an astrologer. You are an astrologer, you are a human design reader, you are a tarot practitioner, fill in the blanks to make it more relevant to your world. But we will say, in this hypothetical example, we will say that you work within the spiritual industry and you have built your business over time and over years, really learning and mastering and honing your craft. And you've built something that you are very proud of. But you are recognizing that you are feeling burnt out due to overgiving. Like you are giving too much of yourself. Even if people are not paying for your services, even if people are not paying for your services and paying for your craft and paying for your mastery, you feel like you constantly need to give. Especially, we'll say you have someone within your family, we'll say a cousin, who perpetually asks you for free readings, who is perpetually freaking out and crashing out over some event within their life and will just call you over and over again until you pick up and be like, what's happening? Pull up my chart right now. Let's talk about my transits. I need to know what's happening. And of course, this is your cousin whom you love dearly. And I just want to mention super quick, this is not autobiographical. I have some cousins who sometimes watch my channel. I love you guys. I'm seeing a lot of you this month. It's not about my cousin. Sorry, just an aside. I never want anyone to think I'm talking about my life or like calling someone out with the vibe check. Literally just hypothetical. Just need to highlight that. Cousins, love you. Love you. Hope you're doing good. And you guys never do this, so this wouldn't even be applicable. But regardless, we will say that there is a cousin who just blows you up. Can I have free readings? What's happening here? I'm dating this person. Can you run this chart? Just constantly hitting you up. And again, when you're early within your business, things were different. You know, you did have more space to give this person readings and give this person insight and be on the phone for hours and hours and hours telling this person everything that you see within their chart, within their transits. But you're recognizing just how drained and depleted you feel. And certainly these hour-long phone calls with your cousin are most certainly contributing to it, but it's not the only place your energy has been leaking. If someone hits you up in your DMs, you feel obligated to spend hours with them talking through their charts, talking through their transits, because you do have a genuine desire to serve, to be helpful. There's a reason why you're in this industry. You really can't be a spiritual practitioner without having that earnest desire to help people. And you're finding that same desire that brought you into this industry is being exploited. And again, it's not that your cousin and these people in your DMs are meaning to exploit you. It's just that they are pulling on your heartstrings. Like when it comes to your cousin, it's like, well, this is my cousin. And like we have history. And my cousin supported my business when I was just starting out, right? So I feel indebted. I feel obligated that I need to spend hours and hours on the phone, even if I'm burnt out and drained and have so much client work to prepare for. Or these people in my DMs, like they're curious, like I want to help, I want to give to them. But you're just recognizing that you feel like an empty lip gloss tube, you know, with nothing else to give. Like I just don't have anything left to give. And there's a recognition, if I keep doing what I've been doing, I will keep getting what it is that I've been getting. And what I've been getting is feeling burnt out, is feeling drained, is feeling utterly depleted, where it gets harder and harder for me to show up, And so we'll say that this energy reaches a breaking point around the Aries solar eclipse. Like that is a time in which you just recognize, I have nothing left to give. I am so drained. I am so depleted. I'm so burnt out. Like at the same time, you have 20 DMs of people like, hey, answer me, like I asked you a question, like see above. You have your cousin blowing up your line asking for advice on the current person that she's dating. You have 5 chart reports due. You have 2 readings tomorrow that you have to prep for. You have your written horoscopes due for a publication that you write for. You know, it's kind of like one of those moments when you're cooking and everything's happening at once. Like this pot is boiling and this timer is going off and this needs to go in the oven and this needs to be marinated and this needs to be defrosted. Like, you know, when everything is happening at once, I know some talented chefs are really good at timing it out. For me, it's like everything's happening at once and then I'm just running around the kitchen like a chicken with my head cut off. But regardless, we'll say that's like kind of what's showing up around work, around like everything's happening, every deadline is happening, everybody's hitting me up, everybody needs my attention, and I need to strategize to figure out where I need to put my energy and where I need to not place my energy right now. Because sometimes when we are so burnt out and drained and depleted and there is so much going on, sometimes we're not so logical or clear-headed enough in order to adequately prioritize or even just see things around, you know, my cousin will live, right? Like this person that she's dating, she doesn't need the full chart reading right now. If we do that like in a week or two, when some of these deadlines are done, or the people in the DMs, if they don't get an answer from me, I'm sure they will investigate, maybe find their own astrological answers, or they could, you know, book a reading with me or read my horoscope or something like this. Like, but sometimes we don't see it that way. Everything could feel urgent and like it needs to happen right now. Sometimes when we're stressed, everything feels urgent and immediate. And sometimes even minor decisions, what do you want for dinner, can feel really anxiety inducing because there's just so much going on at that moment. And so you decide amidst all of this, you're like, okay, I gotta like really prioritize my energy with Mars in Cancer, really decide where I should take action and where I should take non-action in order to distribute my energy accordingly. So you put your phone on Do Not Disturb, you work on the most important deadline, like you handle one thing at a time. You handle your prep, you get your horoscopes written, like you just take things one step at a time. I want to highlight within the vibe check, this is a disruption to how you would typically show up. Again, the Aries solar eclipse kind of brought all of this up to the surface, but typically you would feel very obligated to pick up the phone right when it was coming in. You would feel very obligated that you needed to respond to everyone's DMs before you handled your own matters. That's your typical MO. And this is a disruption of it, which, like I said, with this Saturn sextile Uranus, Mars trining Saturn, Mars sextile Uranus, there's an opportunity to find new ways of approaching our responsibilities and obligations, as well as redefining what is our responsibility, what is our obligation. Because we will say after, you know, the horoscopes are done and everything's turned in, we will say when your cousin is calling you and asking for a full chart reading and kind of like asking you for more information, you decide, you're like, okay, I could go about this how I typically would, which is give and give and give and give. But I'm recognizing that something is bubbling within me that I don't like. I'm feeling resentful. I'm feeling a little bitter. Like I'm feeling a little used, that my cousin didn't even ask me how I was or how my deadlines went or things like that. It just goes into giving my service for free. It's not feeling good. And when you're not feeling good and you're giving from a place of not feeling good, energetically, it's poisoning the waters. right? Energetically, it's poisoning the waters. Even if you have the best intentions around, this is my cousin and I love them and I want them to meet their soulmate. I want to look at the chart to make sure that this person is their soulmate. Like, even the most pure of intentions can be poisoned if dynamics such as feeling used and feeling resentful and feeling bitter kind of makes the way into that exchange. It doesn't feel good to give from that place of obligation or I have to, without feeling like there is that symbiosis of the give and the take. And again, maybe when you were earlier in your business, the dynamic didn't exactly feel like this, but now it's like she was annoyed that you didn't pick up the phone right away. She was annoyed that you didn't pick up the phone yesterday because you were drowning in deadlines. She's like pestering you for more and more information. You're just like recognizing that this isn't feeling good for you any longer and that this is going to continue if you do not find a new way of standing up for yourself, for advocating for yourself. You know, we are fresh off the Aries solar eclipse, which is around new beginnings, new chapters, but even just like new ways of being with this Aries energy. It's self energy. And as we discussed, which by the way, you can get caught up on the Aries solar eclipse, definitely recommend checking out the All Signs forecast as it'll give you more context to what it kicked up within your chart. But as we discussed there, it's like no one's going to do it for you. No one's going to stand up for yourself like you can. No one's going to stand up for you like you can. No one's going to advocate for you like you can. No one's going to enact this boundary unless you do. The reason the dynamic has gotten to this point is because you allowed it to. Like truly, that is the truth of it. And now you have this opportunity to advocate for yourself, to stand up for yourself. Because as I highlighted, Mars has been retrograde since December. So we'll say this resentment has been building, right? It's been building. And it just took that day when everything felt like it was on fire and there's all these deadlines for you to recognize like this is a responsibility that I'm taking on, an obligation that I'm taking on that is not feeling good and is actually not something that I need to like take on my plate. Like this relationship does not need to feel laborious on my end. And what if there is a new way of relating? Like, I don't want to dread every time my cousin calls because I have to drop everything and give her like a 2-hour reading. Like, this is what I do for work. And so we'll say that you reach that recognition on the phone call around, I really cannot feel obligated to this anymore. I really cannot feel burdened by this anymore. I literally don't have the energy and I don't want our dynamic or our relationship to suffer. And maybe this person has no idea that I'm feeling so used, you know, and feeling taken advantage of for all of these free readings. I know those of you who also work within a spiritual industry can attest to this, that of course it is such a blessing. Like, I love talking about astrology. Like, I love my craft. I'm sure you do too. Some people just assume, oh, this is fun for you, right? You just want to talk about astrology all of the time. It can lead you feeling a little like heavy and used if there's not kind of like that symbiosis, but not everybody necessarily gets that. Like, it could just feel like, oh, you love astrology, so you should want to talk to me for hours on the phone about it. It's like, yeah, it's my passion, but you got to respect your passion. Yeah, it's my passion, but it's also my line of work. Like, your passion does shift when you are doing it for work and you are doing it day in and day out. That's why when you started your business, it didn't feel as heavy. It was like, oh, of course, like I'll talk to you for hours, but it's like now my entire life is astrology. I got these horoscope readings to chart readings to. That would be like you, we'll say your cousin is an accountant. That would be like you asking your cousin to come by after her 9-to-5 accounting job and do your taxes, you know, for free. Cause it's fun, right? Cause you love taxes. You love taxes. It's what you do. So of course you'll do my taxes for me. It's like, there's a reason why things cost money. Like, there is an energy exchange. And within this dynamic, there has not been that, which might have hit different at first when you were starting your business, but it's like now it's like you have a full client load and you just don't have the energy to dispel. And you recognize that this will continue and the connection to your cousin could sour because you are harboring all of these feelings, which she may know nothing about. And we'll say for the sake of the vibe check, she does know nothing about it. You say on the phone call, you're like, you know what? No one's going to stand up for me unless I do. You decide on the phone call, you say, hey, I would love to read his composite chart for you, but I do want to let you know I have a full offering on my website where we're going to synastry and composite and all of the things. So if you want to book in there, so welcome to. But I would really love to talk about you. Like, how are you? How's the dog? How's the interviews? No one's going to do it unless I do. And so you decide to disrupt the pattern. You're like, my typical mode would be to just give, like, okay, out of this sense of familiarity, out of the sense of obligation, out of the sense of it's the nice thing to do. That's your typical route, but you understand that's the route that's going to lead to feeling more used, feeling more taken advantage of, feeling more bitter. And so we'll say that that conversation empowers you. You find that your cousin is no longer asking you to do hours and hours of free labor because you just keep directing her to your website. And you find that your connection improves because you stood up for yourself, and now you're able to answer the phone with your whole heart and your whole soul, and not doing so out of the sensation of martyrdom. You know, boundaries are for you. Boundaries are for you, and you've got to have them because nobody will have them for you. And I genuinely feel like some of us this week are standing up for ourselves in ways that feel very uncomfortable. But there's a recognition with Mars trine Saturn around this is not a wise usage of my energy. Stressing myself out, replying to each and every person within my DM, stressing myself out, helping my cousin when I'm overwhelmed and overburdened with my own work schedule and my own responsibilities. And I'm depriving myself in order to give and give and give. At a certain point, you do run out of energy to expel. Mars trine Saturn is asking us to be very shrewd and strategic with our energy and perhaps show up in a new way with the sextile Uranus, advocate for ourselves in a new way, set boundaries in a new way. So we'll discuss, as we always do, the day-by-day breakdown of this astrology, when we will feel these energies activate. I want to give you a reminder that I am located in California at the time being before I set off on tour. So the time zone that I use with my forecast is PDT. So make sure to adjust to your time zone before making a note of these energies. You're also so welcome to utilize the playback speed in order to speed me up or slow me down. If this white mocha Americano has me on turbo Haley mode, you know, it happens. I just felt all over myself. What to do. A more responsible person would probably take this moment, get up, dab this stain, and change clothes, but I just don't have it in me right now. This week's energy is all around using our energy intentionally, and like I said, I got a lot to do, and so I'm simply going to not prioritize the stain at this particular moment. We'll just say that it's a polka dot sleeve. We'll say it's a fashion statement. But without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into the astrology for Monday, March 31st. So on Monday, March 31st, we have absolutely nothing. So we'll go ahead and take it into Tuesday, April 1st. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. April Fools. That'll be my only April Fools joke. This year, usually for Magic Monday, I play some sort of April Fool's prank. Like I said, the way that these retrogrades are showing up, we've got Mercury retrograde in Pisces, Venus retrograde in Pisces, Mercury separating from Neptune. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I don't want to give anyone trust issues by playing an April Fool's joke. So that'll just be my mini April Fool's joke. And you know, it just hurts my Gemini midheaven, Mercury ruled heart to not be able to be a seller and to be a trickster and a jokester, because that really is what I am. At heart, because that really is what I am at heart. But I was not April Fooling you or kidding around in that we do not have any planetary aspects exacting in Monday's astrology. That is not to say that we do not feel influences. I mean, we had a big weekend. We are fresh off the heels of a big weekend. We had the solar eclipse in Aries. We have Neptune newly stepping into Aries, a story that will ricochet out until 2039. Like, there are still major things happening, major chapters beginning. And so long as everything aligned just right, my Neptune Aries video should be up, my all signs forecast. Again, a lot of travel this month, so I'm not sure if I was able to edit it and get it up on the channel, but I'm hoping it did. And I hope it is. I'm hoping it's there for your viewing delight. But regardless, we are fresh off the heels of that energy over the weekend, and we are at the press. What is going on? The drama. Do you guys hear all this? There's like dogs and cats and crows. It sounds like there's a crow fight, a dog fight, and a cat fight all happening at the same time. Okay, so sorry, I'm locked in, I swear. we are at the precipice of Neptune entering Aries. And even the solar eclipse in Aries, we're still technically in the orb of it. So you absolutely can be feeling those weekend energies carry over into Monday. And the encouragement for Monday, because the moon is in Taurus all day long, which is the moon's exaltation. Monday is moon day. So there is this lunar energy. And lunar energy really emphasizes what makes me feel safe, what makes me feel secure. Even if there are certain things that are occurring, there's crow fights, there's dog fights, there's cat fights, there's, in the vibe check, there's deadlines that are happening, my phone is ringing, like all of these things that are happening. The Taurus moon asks you, how can you soothe yourself amidst it in order to get into that Taurian perspective around, okay, one step at a time. Let me handle this and then move to this and move to this. And have I ate? Have I drank water? Have I rested? Like, it's important to also soothe your senses, especially if you are feeling anxious or if you're feeling a little all over the place. If you spill white chocolate Americano on your long sleeve, if you had a major eclipse story where there was beginnings and endings, if you have a lot of deadlines going on, it's really important in times of stress to signal to your nervous system, like, I am safe, like I am okay, I am secure, because sometimes when so many things are going on and you are dealing with different stressors and different arenas of life, everything can feel overwhelming. Like, again, within the heat of that moment when all of these things are due and your phone is being blown up and you have emails from the publication saying, hey, where's the horoscopes this month? It can feel like everything's on fire. And sometimes when we're in that more urgent or reactive space, we're not able to figure out, like, what is a tiny spark and what is a bonfire? Like, what fire really needs to be focused on to put out. And we make those more intelligent decisions when we are coming from a soothed nervous system, a fed body, a rested body, feeling exhausted, fatigued, dehydrated, not eating. Like, that only adds that sensation of like urgency and anxiety within your world. It's not that taking a break and drinking some water and making a snack, it's not that that solves all of the deadlines that are due and all of the panic that is alive, but it does give you that space to be able to like ground down in order to be like, okay, one step at a time, what needs to be prioritized. I also do want to let you know that over the weekend, we had that Mercury-Neptune alignment, and now it is separating because, of course, Neptune's in Aries, Mercury's retrograde in Pisces, so they're moving in opposite directions. But I will just highlight, with Mercury in the orb of influence of Neptune, this could be an energy around not being able to properly discern what is real, what is fake, which is why I didn't want to go too extra this year with the April Fool's joke, you know, with the energy of Neptune already, it kind of creates this energy around what's real, what's happening. But also there could be an energy around that distorted energy of Neptune, turning mountains into molehill, around life will go on if these people in your DMs don't get a response right away, right? Life will continue. The world will continue to go round. The world will continue to spin. But with Mercury Neptune, it's like, I'm such a bad person because I'm not responding, and this means that I'm not good at my craft. It's like, breathe. And I would also say with Mercury Neptune, you could be reading into things, reading into what is being said, reading into what's not being said. With Mercury Neptune, your head could kind of feel like it's in outer space. You could be having a hard time focusing. You could be kind of lost in your own dream reality, lost in fantasy, which the Taurus moon is also helpful for grounding you within. So on Tuesday, April 1st, for real this time, the moon is in Taurus for the first portion of the day. It sextiles Mars in Cancer in the earlier part of the day, which is around grounding down and being able to make decisions or take action steps from that space around feeling nourished, definitely allowing your intuition to guide what you should prioritize, what you should not prioritize, taking it one step at a time. The Taurus moon will sextile Mars in Cancer and Saturn in Pisces in the early morning hours, which is being able to take actions and productive actions from the space around feeling nourished yourself, around I ate, I rested, and now I'm able to adequately prioritize what fires need to be put out or what I need to handle at this particular moment in time, what's not an immediate priority at this moment in time, and maybe even allowing your intuition intuition to guide you towards what you are feeling inspired to prioritize today. I will say there could be some shakeups in the early morning hours as well, as before 5 a.m. the Taurus moon aligns with Uranus, so there could be some surprises, there could be some shock waves. Reminder, it's April Fool's, so if someone does give you some shocking news or there's a shocking headline, take that moment. Mercury's retrograde, like take that moment, take a beat, do some digging, do some research before allowing your own emotional landscape to be thrown around. The Taurus moon will sextile Venus and Mars, who are also building to trine over the weekend. And it's kind of cute, the Taurus moon and Venus and Pisces, because they're both exalted. And this is kind of like the part of the vibe check around recognizing, like, this doesn't feel good, and what if it could feel good? Like, what if it could feel good? Like, what if the way that I showed up and gave could feel good to both the recipient and absorbing what I'm here to share, as well as me in giving it? And so there could just be a soft flow, again, sextile energy, so soft flow of energy around, what if this could feel good? What if this dynamic within my life, as tense as it may feel, as annoying as it may feel, like, what if it could feel good? What if I could feel more emotionally supported within my relationship? What if I could give to my clients from the space of an overflow within myself, because I'm taking really good care of myself and I want to pour into others? Like, what if that world exists, and how can I make the necessary decisions in order to move towards that world, really? But in terms of like Tuesday's astrology, I would just say the earlier part of the day, there could be some surprises in store, but you could be drawn to really dialing into the beauty all around you, observing what feels good, because that's also data. Like when we give astrology readings, tarot readings, human design readings, what have you, and you pour a lot into it and you give a lot of value and you receive, compensation in return. Like, money is energy, and it's less so around the actual dollar earned so much as it's just having that energy exchange, right? Around pouring into something and feeling poured into. Because when you leave exchanges like that, regardless of the industry, like when you feel like you have the right price point for your business, when you feel like the salary, the right amount, you feel less drained, you feel less burnt out, you are more likely to pour into it because you have the energy to pour into, you're being poured into. Like, it really is symbiotic. So maybe this shows up around recognizing, like, this is an offering with my business that feels really good. Like, I feel like I gave a lot, I feel like I received, and we both walked away happy and nourished and feeling good. That world exists. Like, believe in that world, especially if you're feeling like very drained and burnt out within your business and you're like, the Haley Comet, people expect a certain price point. Like, really, my encouragement to anyone who I'm talking to who happens to own their own business and you are not feeling that even exchange, this week's astrology is very supportive in really contemplating that. Venus is retrograde. This is really reflecting money altogether. And if you leave sessions, if you leave client calls, if you leave site visits for your interior design business, if you leave sales calls feeling absolutely drained and absolutely depleted every single time, sometimes that can signal there's not an even exchange here. Like, I feel like I'm giving less than I'm receiving, because it is possible when it's like the right price point where that is an even exchange of your value, of your care that you're pouring into this particular project. And sometimes when there is these crystallized or hardened roles of obligation or expectation, or I've always had my prices like this, or I've always offered this, we sometimes forget to believe, like, it can feel good. It can feel even. It can feel like I'm being compensated fairly. And the encouragement this week, not that you need to announce anything or make major shifts, but like really contemplate that. Observe the data of when you leave certain site visits and you're like, that felt good. That felt like an even exchange. And when you hang up certain client calls and you're like, gosh, I feel so exhausted. I feel so depleted. Because again, work will be work regardless. There will be some days in which you're like, gosh, I would really love a hot bath or a long walk. Like, I am feeling more exhausted. But it is possible to price your offerings and to give services from a place that feels even, that feels like that give and take, that feels like that symbiosis. And so just like really honoring that data around what's not feeling as good and what's feeling good, and believe in a world where you can give your services and it can feel good for you to give. And then the Taurus moon, after it sextiles Venus in Pisces, will sextile Mercury in Pisces. So even if this isn't showing up, you know, you're a business owner and you're contemplating pricing and all of this, this could just be showing up around feeling intuitively guided towards what conversations you want to have, what projects you want to prioritize. The moon is void at 10:43 a.m., although it is debated amongst astrologers if the moon can truly be void in a sign it's exalted in. But regardless, the moon then enters Gemini at 1:26 p.m., where it sextiles Neptune in Aries. And I'm telling you, that even felt weird coming out of my mouth. Like, this is the first time we're having Neptune kicked up with an aspect. I'm just so used to saying the Gemini moon squaring Neptune in Pisces. Like, I'm so used to Neptune in Pisces. This is the first time on this channel, or for any astrologer really, we'll be talking about Neptune in Aries. This will kick up totally different lunar stories. This will create totally different aspects. It really is a brand new chapter that is beginning. And I would say on Tuesday, it's not going to show up in like these dramatic ways. Sextiles are soft flows of energy, but the encouragement with the Gemini moon is to be open to communicate, to be open to learn. And with the sextile to Neptune and Aries, like really observing what spiritual topics are lighting you up, that you're wanting to learn more about, that you're wanting to be a student within, that you're allowing yourself the space to dream of and step into. Our protagonist is an astrologer and has built this business. It's because they took this vision around, it would be so cool if I could learn this particular craft in a way where I could provide value to other people based on my years of deep study, and taking action on that and learning it and refining it. So if you're having any FOMO from the vibe check, you're like, gosh, I want to like be a human design reader or tarot reader. It just takes learning, curiosity, and lots of practice and maintaining that eternal student mindset. And the Gemini moon will also trine Pluto in Aquarius. So also just honoring the connections within your life or the conversations that carry that level of depth. And I find that carry that level of depth. I find that that's why a lot of people are drawn to working within a spiritual field, or even just like studying a spiritual field, even if you have no intention in working within it, is that we're craving deeper conversations, right? We want to go deep. We want to talk about the real stuff. And spiritual topics is a way to be able to create that deep intellectual intimacy to a certain degree around talking around these deeper topics. So there could just be an awareness on Tuesday around which conversations also don't feel equal, right? It's not that every interaction will be this perfect give or take, but there just feels to be awareness, whether that's showing up financially or relationally, around where you feel like you're giving a lot and not necessarily being poured back into, or where certain things are feeling more like surface or superficial, and where you're craving that depth within your one-on-ones. There just could be an awareness around that on Tuesday. I had to get up to change the battery within the camera, so I went ahead and just grabbed a Tide to Go pen. There we are. There we are. Hopefully that saves the long sleeve from the white chocolate mocha. Back to business. Okay, so Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025. So the moon is in Gemini all day long. It sextiles the Aries sun at 11:20 a.m., which does create a waxing crescent moon phase, which is a lunar phase that is associated with intention meets action. Again, I want to be so clear. I'm not saying you need to run out and do all the things, launch all the things, force all the things. But what I will say is that this is a time for new beginnings. This is a time for new beginnings, to set your foot into learning something new. You know, it's so fun to learn. It truly is so fun to learn. And there could be a new chapter that you could be initiating. Like, your passions are not random. There's a reason why you're so lit up by the topics that you're so lit up around. Anyone who's a professional in this particular topic that you're so lit up around, the difference between the two of you is just like years of deep study and the courage to try, if that is your heartfelt desire. Again, even if it's not, you never know where the path will take you and why you're being drawn to learning about different things. Like right now, I have been in such a tarot mode. I cannot get enough tarot. Like, I'm so in my tarot era. Getting all of the books when I'm editing or when I'm working on the computer, all day long, I just listen to tarot readings. I just listen to people on TikTok giving tarot readings. I feel like it's such a great way to learn about all of the cards. I just love it. It's just fun. It's so fun to learn new things and to dive into new modalities, which maybe is not even spiritual for you, just different topics around, I want to learn this particular language, learn how to fix this within my home. Like sometimes even our taking on of new studies and learning new tools helps with our courage and our confidence. Just say if you get a nudge around a certain topic is fascinating you and you feel like it's universally ordained, like you feel like the signs and synchronicities are pushing you in a certain direction, I would say this is a day where it's aligned to step into something that you're wanting to study more deeply. The Gemini moon then aligns with Jupiter. Even if this just means putting some books on hold at the library of the topic you want to dive into, or seeing if there's any classes around knitting in your area, like even just taking those small steps to take what could have been a vision or an intention during the Aries solar eclipse and to meet it with action. This is the nature of the waxing crescent moon, to meet our visions with action. And it doesn't need to be the final step. You don't even need to know where the journey is going to take you. It's just like taking that step. And you don't need to force it. You don't need to rush it. Maybe you put the books on hold. Maybe you look up the class. Don't feel like you need to dedicate yourself into a rigorous 10-year study today. But there is an excitement around being at the precipice of a journey and being able to wear that eternal student cap. And let's say you're like, okay, Haley, Comet, well, I'm not necessarily feeling activated to want to learn something new. How else could this astrology surface? I would just even say, observe where you're learning in life school. Like, we don't just do our learning from books and classes and things like that. We are also learning lessons here in life school. So this could also be you kind of observing what happened this eclipse season, what Mercury retrograde has been bringing up and what Venus retrograde has been bringing up, and seeing, am I learning the lessons that the universe is showing me? You know, with Venus retrograde, a lot of us are thinking through our love lives, current dynamics as well as past dynamics. And it's not that the universe is bringing back these people or bringing reminders of them or synchronicities around them to be mean, to torture you. It simply is around, have you learned the lessons of these things yet? Because if we don't master the lesson, it will repeat. The same dynamic will show up just with different faces and different people. It'll just repeat because our mind wants closure. And if there's been certain experiences that were unresolved, even if you're over the person, you've moved on with your life, if something feels open-ended, if something feels unresolved, you will find yourself naturally pulled back to that relationship and not certain why. Or you'll find yourself drawn to people who bring about that familiar dynamic and uncertain why. It's your mind seeking resolution. It feels like there's questions from that dynamic. So naturally, you're going to be more pulled to dynamics similar so you could recreate that dynamic and try to find that resolution that your brain is looking for. And the problem with that is that sometimes it just leads us into dynamics that just repeat the same story over and over again. So if you're like genuinely wanting to graduate from a lesson of life school, you're like, I'm seeing the pattern that's playing out within these relationships or within the situation with my cousin or what have you. I'm the common denominator here. How can I really learn from this lesson of life school in order to graduate, to have some new themes, some new dynamics surface? You know, we never stop learning. We never stop growing. Life never stops lifing. Okay, but it's just like deciding which themes and dynamics you're like, I've learned what I need to learn from this. I do not need to repeat this and hope for closure and hope for resolution. And in fact, the desire of that could come from a more wounded place around wanting answers where I felt like I never got them, or wanting to win where I felt like I lost, or wanting something to be resolved, or wanting to win back this person's validation when I was deprived of it. Like oftentimes, we go to these familiar dynamics thinking that's where closure lies, that's where healing lies, but a lot of times it just reactivates that same wounds and leaves us with the same bad taste in our mouth. So there is an invitation on Wednesday, even if you are not literally learning something to witness. What am I learning currently? Like, if this chapter of my life was a chapter in my memoir, what would it be titled? Like, what am I learning currently? Like, what is the challenges that are alive currently? Because, you know, the Aries solar eclipse, not the most comfortable. Like, a lot of us are being guided towards new beginnings, new chapters, new ways of showing up, new ways of fighting for what it is that we desire. It's not necessarily easy. What are the biggest problems within my life, the biggest obstacles, the biggest challenges, and how am I learning from them? All in all, I would say this could be a great day for connection. You might be like in kind of like a fun, comedic, humorous mood. Again, the eclipse energy could absolutely be eclipsing based on how severe it was for you. But all in all, if we just look at Wednesday's slice of astrology, it does feel upbeat, it does feel curious, it does feel forward. On Thursday, April 3rd, around 3 a.m., the Gemini moon will sextile Chiron in Aries. And this is around how healing it could be to look for that lesson that we were talking about yesterday, around what am I learning from this? Or what did I learn from that? Right? The retrogrades could have us contemplating the past and like looking for pattern recognition. And it could be healing and empowering to see what you learned from something, even if it was hard, even if it was heavy. And again, you don't need to shift into this utter like love and light. So grateful that I learned patience within that horrible thing that I went through. But when you can just recognize around that hurt, it was hard, it was painful, but I did learn this, and that is something I'm taking with me on my journey. Again, Aries energy really asks us to embody our inner warrior, our inner advocate, and to recognize that not everything in this life is our fault, but how it is that we choose to proceed forward is our responsibility. So like recognizing if I don't want to repeat that exact same dynamic, maybe there's bits and pieces that I can source from that I can take with me, where now I know to, leave at the first red flag, or now I know to ask this particular question, or now I know about this tendency within myself that gets flared up, that gets triggered in situations like this. Like sometimes when you get to just take one gem that you're taking with you, one lesson that you're excavating and taking with you, sometimes that can be healing within itself. And on Thursday morning, before 7 a.m., what a wake-up call, the Gemini moon will square Saturn in Pisces. So you could receive a message that is unpleasant to start your day potentially. Like you could wake up to a text message from your boss of please fix. I always hated those words when I had my 9 to 5. Ooh, the please fix. Oh, that was the worst. Or you could find that a client's on your website and is like, there's a technical difficulty. I also hate that when there's a technical difficulty. I'm like, no, You could have something like that. Or you could just experience a technical difficulty. The Gemini moon is answering to Mercury, which is retrograde and sitting in its fall of Pisces. So Mercury is a little lost in the sauce right now. So there could be technical difficulties, miscommunications, please fix emails, things such as this, starting off your Thursday morning. Good morning to all of us. And before 11 a.m., the Gemini moon will also square Venus in Pisces, and who it's answering to, Mercury in Pisces, which could affect your focus. You could feel quite distracted. Like you could be waiting for one particular tab to load so that you could do this particular project, and then a coworker comes in and you're gabbing with that person and you're like, okay, gotta work on this project. But then you're trying to work on the project and the software is not working, so you open a little box to chat with a tech support individual, but you're waiting for them to sign on, and you look at your desktop and there's all these screenshots that are making it really busy, so you clean that up and you're like, should I have a different desktop background? And you try to make it pretty, beautify it, right? Venus in its exaltation of Pisces squaring the Gemini moon, and then you realize that the tech support person came and left because you weren't responding. Like it could just be one of those days where it's just like lost in the sauce, a little distracted. The moon will be void at 11:26 a.m. and it will enter its rulership of Cancer at 3:50 p.m., which does draw awareness to our home and what soothes us, what nurtures us. The Cancer moon will square Neptune in Aries, so even looking for answers around what soothes you, what nurtures you, even if you're stepping into a chapter of your life that is quite unfamiliar, that is quite scary, really tuning into what gives you that sense of security as you step into it, right? And this shows up in such varying ways. Like some of us could be moving, some of us could be starting a new job, but some of us, it's just like a new start around, I'm standing up for myself, and that's so new to me, and that feels so uncomfortable to me. Like that too is a departure. That too is a new start. Like it doesn't always need to show up in these big grandiose ways. Sometimes it's just you choosing to show up differently, advocate for yourself differently. Sometimes those are the most profound shifts, honestly. And it just feels like with the Cancer moon squaring Neptune in Aries, maybe it's around feeling supported in this new beginning because you feel supported by the universe. So looking at your astrology and being like, This is a great week to be enacting boundaries with my cousin. Like, I'm supported by, the star, or pulling tarot around it and pulling the Ace of Swords and being like, okay, let me have this conversation. Again, it's not that these modalities will do the work for us or take the action for us, but it can make us feel more supported to do it ourselves. On Friday, April 4th, it is quite a day. So I want to say firstly, at 9:21 a.m. PDT, Saturn in Pisces will sextile Uranus in Taurus. And these are two planets that move slowly. So its influence, its opportunity, its impact is not just limited to Friday, April 4th. That's when the energy exacts and maybe felt the most strongly. But if you're still in recovery mode this week, you're like, Haley, come and give me a second to breathe. Give me a second for Mercury to go direct. Like, we still technically do have this energy available, albeit separating next week as well. And with the energy of Saturn sextile Uranus, this was woven into the vibe check because Saturn in Pisces is recognizing our compassion must have boundaries. Again, it's like the reason you poured out into your DMs and to your cousin, even if you were feeling drained and burnt out and used, is because you care about what you're doing, because you care about humans, right? That's why you're doing what it is that you're doing. You care. But it's knowing that when you care, you must have boundaries and advocating for this boundary, because also today, Mars will trine Saturn and sextile Uranus. So like I said, these three planets are in cahoots. Saturn around our boundaries, our restrictions, our limits, Uranus around novelty, shaking things up, and Mars around advocacy. And you disrupting a fixed groove of behavior around not standing up for yourself and just swallowing your resentment and your bitterness, and having a new approach, having a new boundary that you are enacting. And a lot of times, especially if you are someone who really struggles with boundaries or with conflict or being assertive, if there is an issue, you can feel mean, you can feel bad. But do you know what's actually meaner than being forthright when someone is crossing your boundaries? Is not enforcing it, because that will leak into the dynamic. You will pick up the phone with your cousin and be like, hello, right? Like, when we are not forthright around what's actually bothering us and these things just simmer, sometimes we can even like lash out or crash out at someone because it's just been building and building and building, this resentment that your cousin may have no idea about. But that sort of resentment and bitterness and feeling not equal, that's going to poison the relationship with your cousin. That's also going to poison the other clients that you work with, because you'll be showing up with less to give, less to pour out, because you are feeling so taken advantage of. You are feeling so used. And again, this is your responsibility. And I know that there's people out there who are pushy. I know that there's certain people within your life who maybe you've known for years and they're used to a certain dynamic with you. Like, I know that these situations are hard, but ultimately your boundaries are yours to enforce. No one's going to do it for you. And if you're feeling taken advantage of, if you're feeling used, that is your responsibility. That is your responsibility. Your boundaries are for you. It has nothing to do with other people. It's just the expectation that you have for yourself, and honoring that and standing up for that. And again, it doesn't need to be cruel. It doesn't need to be mean. I know some of us who demonize anger or demonize conflict can feel like it's so mean to not spend hours talking about my cousin and this random man she met from Hinge composite chart. Like, it feels mean. It's meaner to the dynamic to poison it with this resentment that's brewing that you're not voicing. And it's meaner to yourself to deprive yourself. Like, those hours that you were giving to your cousin can be given to your deadlines, but even more important than that, to yourself. Like, if you're like, I have not seen the light of day in days. I have not taken a bath in so long. I have not had time to like read a book or to learn about something within my astrological study that's really lighting me up. Like, your time is your own. Your time is your own. And tough love, and I'm saying this to myself just as I'm saying it to you, if you feel like other people are constantly taking your time and taking your energy and taking advantage of you, unfortunately, my love, you are letting them. You are letting them. In big or small ways, you are letting them. And that's hard for me to say, it's hard to hear, but it just is with Aries season, like taking accountability. I'm not saying that it's your fault, that people are pushy, that people expect a lot from you, that people expect you to drop everything at beck and call. I'm not saying that that's your fault. All I'm saying is your boundaries are your responsibility. And this is a great week to enforce one in a big or small way. It doesn't make you mean or cruel. Like in the vibe check, you handled it so gracefully and so beautifully around, yeah, it's on my website, like you can check it out there. Like it doesn't mean you need to like call someone out. And there's ways to enforce it that's not mean. It's just assertive. It's just direct around, oh yeah, like if you want to look into that, like head to my website, you could check out the composite or the synastry there. Or even within the DMs, just be like, yeah, this would be a conversation that would likely make more sense within a one-on-one. Boundary stated right there. And now you've eased yourself of this obligation on your plate around all of these DMs I need to reply to right away and all of these emails, and I need to like look up my cousin's solar return chart for 2032. Like no. And it's important to be gentle with yourself. You know, if this comes up at work, if this comes up within your own business, if this comes up within relationships, it's important to know that these patterns are ingrained in us for a reason. Like I wanted this to be a family dynamic because with Mars in Cancer, you know, it brings up these themes of our roots. And sometimes work accentuates certain patterns that have always been alive within us, in that if we have learned that it's very important to people please and to fawn, owning our own business is going to accentuate it, because there will be something within you that feels like you need to make each and every person happy, and you will feel fundamentally unsafe if someone is unhappy with you, if you don't respond to them right away, if you don't have your prices set at a certain way. If you work at a 9 to 5 and your boss disapproves of you, it could bring you back to this very core wound around feeling like your father disapproved of you, feeling like your mother disapproved of you, and feeling like you need to do anything and everything in order to acquiesce, in order to make the situation right. These people-pleasing behaviors oftentimes are very much ingrained into us. And oftentimes a lot of us didn't really learn to assert ourselves or learn to stand up for ourselves. Or we demonize it. We feel like it's bad. We feel like it's wrong. But no one is going to stand up for you unless you do. And no one can shift this pattern around feeling taken advantage of, feeling disrespected. So maybe for some of you, this is enacting a big boundary around, you will not be treating me that way, I'll not be staying late. Maybe this is something so micro around just not answering DMs past a certain hour, around not answering messages after a certain hour, or something like this. Boundaries are for you, and they're up for you to enforce. And this is a great week to enforce them, or to find new ways of going about them, even if it's so uncomfortable. It's like, I'm so used to falling asleep, still answering client DMs, or I'm so used to dropping everything when this person calls, or I'm so used to going above and beyond to make sure my boss is satisfied. It's like maybe the comfort zone that the Aries solar eclipse is asking you to depart, just showing up in a dynamic differently. And sometimes you find, like we'll say within the vibe check, it was really not that big a deal. And it made you look back and be like, wow, I was like silently suffering for what? For what? Like, why was I taking on this obligation that was really not an obligation that I needed to take on? And now our relationship is better. I freed up more time. I don't feel this obligation or this dread every time my cousin calls. And maybe for some of you, it's not necessarily showing up around a boundary that needs to be enforced, but something that was not okay with you. You know, we're in Aries season, and of course the Aries sun is answering to Mars, which is in Cancer, which again, Mars was retrograde. So things have been brewing and stewing and layering. And with the energy of Aries, it is around being direct, it is around being upfront, it is around being assertive. And some of you may find this week that you bring a certain issue up that does bother you. And it's okay for you to be mad about something. Like, it's okay for something not to sit right with you. Like, your work is not to be the most convenient, likable person ever. And again, we have to be gentle with ourselves, because sometimes our upbringing, our childhood like ingrains us in a way where we feel like that's where safety lies. So it's important to be gracious with yourself if you witness these patterns coming up, but that is not your job. Like, your job is to be you, with the energy of us being in Aries season. And oftentimes we demonize our anger. We feel like anger is bad and wrong. So we push it into the shadows where it has the capacity to build and build and build, and sometimes leak out either at targets that are not intended, or we internalize there's something wrong with me. I'm not managing my time well enough because I'm so drained. And maybe when it builds up so much that it leaks out, maybe at a different person, like we're frustrated about the situation with our cousin and we take it out on our partner or something like this. This frustration has been stewing and building. But sometimes we internalize it. You know, we feel like there's something wrong with us or that we're bad or something like this. And Aries season does favor personal accountability and personal empowerment and recognizing the role that you play within the situation. But it's also knowing that it's okay for you to feel mad about things. It's okay for you to be not okay with how someone is treating you or has treated you. It's okay for you to be angry and upset around ways that people have trespassed against your boundaries or mistreated you. In fact, anger is a very healthy emotional response to having been mistreated. And I just want to share, you know, if you watch Magic Monday, you know that I've been going to therapy. And my therapist's name is Bonnie. Bonnie is the best. Love Bonnie. But basically, with Bonnie, chats with Bonnie, I was describing something that occurred and describing the emotion that was tied to it. And she was like, what you described, the emotion that should be tied to that is anger. Like, that was a situation where you were mistreated. Like, that was a situation in which your trust was violated. Yet there was no anger. Like, you did not report feeling any anger. And I don't. And I didn't. Anger is very hard for me to tap into. Like, it's not an emotion that I really feel that often. And it's not that we need to force anger necessarily, but she basically stated that anger does indicate that there is a level of being protective of your boundaries, protective of yourself, and loving yourself enough to kind of like call, that was not okay. And I'm like mad about that. Like, I'm angry about that. Like, my typical is internalizing it. How did I let this happen? How could I have allowed this to happen? I'm so bad because this happened. Again, you could take personal accountability for your role in it, but also just like, no, that wasn't okay. And I'm going to say that that's not okay because no one's going to stand up for me unless I do. Like, it's a healthy emotional response to being disrespected to feel anger rather than internalizing it. Why am I so easily taken advantage of? Why does everybody come in and use me? What's wrong with me? Be like, no, what's wrong with them? Why did they cross this boundary? What it's affirming to your body, mind, and soul is like, I'm someone worthy of defending. Like, it's not okay with me when people mistreat me. I'm not going to make it about me and hurt my feelings all over again by beating myself up around how this happened. Yes, I'll take responsibility for my role in it, but how dare you? How dare you? But I have the hardest time with conflict and standing up for myself. But I would say it's been so great for me to have a business because work, like I said, can just accentuate what's beneath the surface. And like, there really is no room to be a people pleaser when you do have a business. Regardless of the industry, regardless of the craft, you cannot people please and run a business. You can't. You're going to burn yourself out. You're going to feel drained trying to be everything to everybody. You got to get used to letting other people down or else you're going to let yourself down. Truly. And I think owning my own business just accentuated that and helped me move through the pattern, even in other arenas of life, because your business and work altogether is this playground around enforcing boundaries and setting expectations and dictating how it is that you will and will not be treated in the circumstances in which you will be reached and the services that you will offer. It's a playground to explore these themes and explore these dynamics. What is going on? I'm hearing like, do you guys hear that meowing outside of my window? What is going on today with all of the animal sounds? A lot of animal activity. So that's my co-host today, is this kitty cat meowing outside the window. But essentially, what I want to highlight is that Saturn is our responsibilities, our commitments. And with the sextile Uranus, maybe some of you are taking on a new responsibility, a new commitment. Maybe it has something to do with fitness, with the Mars activation. Maybe you're deciding, I'm going to start prioritizing yoga. I'm going to start prioritizing running or something like this. Something new that I'm committing to. Maybe that's what's showing up for some. Like I said, it could be a new way of dealing with your anger. Firstly, allowing yourself to be mad. Allowing yourself to be mad. I'm not saying you have to crash out and lash out at someone else. Again, how we behave because of our anger is our own responsibility, but allowing yourself to be mad, like allowing yourself to be like, come on, cousin, like really, you're not even going to ask me how my day was. You're just going to jump into this. Like, really, like you're allowed to be mad. You do not need to be pretty and perfect and palatable and sweet and nice all hours of the day. Like, it's okay for you to be like, really, it's Aries season. Be real. Because you could be a kind person without being nice all of the time. And the thing about being nice all the time or pretending to be nice all the time is that mask will slip. Eventually that mask will slip. And that crash out is going to be intense. Because at a certain point, it can't sustain itself. You can't be nice and sweet 24 hours a day. You just can't, especially if you're saying yes to every and any ask for your time and your energy. You have to be the chef of your life and decide what dish you are going to prioritize at one point in time, right? You need to be the leader of your life and decide where you will invest your energy and not just allow yourself to be passively taken in every direction around every ask for your time and energy. And Friday's astrology feels like stepping into that. Again, you have access to that even as these energies separate, but there could be an opportunity to like stand on business, and that could feel new. I also want to say we have the first quarter moon in Cancer landing around 7 p.m. So this is the crisis of action moon phase. So this is the phone call, like literally. It's like I could either repeat the pattern where I just acquiesce and give her exactly what she wants, or I can push myself into something new, which is uncomfortable. Like growth is uncomfortable, and it can indicate showing up to familiar dynamics, embedded themes, Cancer moon, in a new way and being pushed towards taking new action steps, being pushed towards asserting a new boundary around that's a service that I offer on my website, which I'm happy to offer to you, but you know, this is no longer feeling good for me. And some of you could just reach some sort of emotional breaking point. Not that it necessarily needs to be that dramatic, but enough could just feel to be enough. Like there's just like an energy around something might be brewing and building, and there's just an energy around I've got to shift something. Like I've got to shift something. If I keep doing what it is that I've been doing, I will keep getting what it is that I've been getting. And emotionally, there's something that I cannot ignore. There's something that I need to face here or recognize right here. For some of you, this could be your intuition nudging you to make a certain decision. Because again, a lot of actions that we take in life can feel crazy to other people around how are you feeling so bold doing this or stepping into this. But when you feel backed by spirit, when you feel very intuitively led and guided, that will bring about bravery and courage that you will not even realize you had. Like you'll be like, I didn't even know I had that within me to be that brave and to be that courageous and to step into that new chapter with such bravery. And it's also a nudge when you do feel backed by spirit, when you do feel in touch with your intuition, you will access bravery and courage that you will not even know that you had. Truly, you will not even know that you had. I think about who I was in 2018 and I'm like, dang, I had some balls. Like literally, girl, what? Apologies if you've been watching for a while and you've heard the story over and over again. But at that point in time, I was working at my 9 to 5 and trying to build this and also teaching yoga. And it was like cooking a meal with everything beeping and dinging at me, and the pot is boiling and all of the things. Like I was trying to balance everything within my life, but the toast was being burnt because I was putting this in the oven. Like when you're too scattered, when your attention is called for in too many other areas, you're going to drop the ball in one way or another. And so my boss had basically called me in. I'd made some sort of mistake just because I was really burnt out and drained trying to do it all. And I just knew, again, before that, I'd been like, I wonder when I'm going to quit. I wonder when I'm going to quit. I wonder when I'm going to quit. And I could feel that this chapter was coming to a close. But within that meeting, I was finally like, yeah, I got to quit. And I just quit in that meeting. And I think about that and I'm like, dang, I really was brave there, because while I was teaching yoga, while I was building this, it was in no way enough to pay my bills. And again, I wouldn't necessarily like advocate for that. Like I definitely think it's wise to have a plan. I did have savings and stuff like that, but I just knew something within me told me it's now or never, girlfriend, like now or never. And same goes with that phone call with your cousin, where it's like, it's now or never. There's some sort of urgency that's baking within me where I need to do this now. And it's scary. But things that are scary feel a lot less scary when you do feel intuitively guided around, there's a reason why this is coming up at this particular time. There's a reason why I'm getting this instinct to do this at this particular time. And then the crows are so loud today. My goodness. Is that a sign? Is that a sign of some sort? But it's so crazy when I think about it, because like up to that point, I mean, I was so anxious about it. When's it going to happen? How am I going to do it? Will I be able to make it work? Like there was so much chatter, mental chatter. And when it came to that point, when it came to that meeting, all of a sudden it was like quiet. And that's a great way to discern intuition from anxiety, because that comes up a lot within my client work, is individuals being like, I don't know what's coming from my intuition or what's coming from anxiety. Really tune into the pacing of your thoughts, how it feels within your body, because I find, and this is just me personally, again, we're all different, but I find that intuition, when I'm feeling this energy of spirit, it tends to be a little bit more flowy, whereas like anxious thoughts are a little bit more staccato. And I also feel it in different places within my body. Like anxiety for me, I feel my tummy lock up, I feel like a lump in my throat, whereas when I feel kind of like intuition or I feel guided, I feel a little bit more open. So observing those little nudges, because when you feel backed by spirit, your bravery will astound you, your courage will astound you. On Saturday, April 5th, the Cancer moon does square Chiron in Aries early morning, so there could be a little bit of ouches, bruised egos, hurt feelings, something like this. Important to nurture what comes up as it does come up. Again, your boundaries are your responsibility to state, your responsibility to enforce, but how people react or respond to them has nothing to do with you, so do not take it personally. Again, your cousin in the vibe check will say, was just like, oh, okay, but you could absolutely state a boundary and someone's like, wait, you're so rude and you're so mean. Like, how dare you not give me free chart readings and things like this. And that's on them. You're stating, this is my expectation of how I will operate, and how other people think you should operate really doesn't have that much to do with you. So it's not getting your feelings hurt if there are certain customers who aren't aligned for your business because of these new boundaries, or people think that you're mean for having boundaries or something like this. But outside of that tender energy in the morning, there's a lot of hopeful aspects that the Cancer moon is making. It sextiles Uranus, trine Saturn, aligns with Mars really around noon. Again, your intuition guiding you to taking certain action steps, enacting certain boundaries. The Cancer moon trines Venus in Pisces. It trines Mercury in Pisces. See and recognize that dissent and disagreement and conflict can actually be something that aids intimacy within connection. Like, see it that way. It can lead to a lot of depth. It can lead to a lot of intimacy. It can lead to a lot of closeness, honestly. And it's really around how you approach it. And you're not going to find that closeness if you don't address it, if you react in passive-aggressive ways, if you silently suffer while giving these people all that you want. You're not going to find that intimate moment. Let's say if your cousin does broach you around, hey, why don't you want to give readings anymore? Just saying like, you know, it was causing me to feel this type of way and I really value you as a person. I don't want to feel bitter towards you. I don't want to feel sour. I don't want to feel like an unpaid astrologer having to do hours of work. And who knows how she'll respond. Again, how she responds, it's not your responsibility. But a lot of times someone deeply cares about us and values who it is that we are and what we're about. Oftentimes they'll be like, okay, wow, now I understand. And you're able to give and take with a little bit more ease. But I would say with these watery trines, this might be a great day to follow where the wind takes you, like on a Saturday, walking around and popping in for, you know, a matcha at the cafe. And maybe if you feel inspired to make a certain dish, honoring that call, like let intuition guide you. Like let intuition guide you on Saturday. It might lead you to some magnificent places. The moon is void at 3:54 p.m. Reminder, the moon's in rulership in Cancer. Some people don't feel that the moon can truly go void in signs that it does quite well in. But regardless, the moon will enter Leo at 9:34 p.m., trining Neptune in Aries that evening. Believe in your creative expression. Believe in your ideas. Allow yourself to be a conduit for them. This could be a dreamy night out for some, a night that you really dress up and allow yourself to be seen and allow yourself to get lost in the dance floor, something like this. This could be a night that you are listening to music and visualizing a music video with you as the pop star within it. This could be a night of painting something beautiful. There's just an energy of creativity alive, being seen, allowing your creativity to be seen. On Sunday, April 6th, the Aries sun will sextile Jupiter in Gemini. And this lands at 2:44 a.m. And this like echoes those sentiments that we were sharing earlier around how good it feels to learn new things and to step into new studies and new lessons. And again, sometimes this shows up in literal topics that we are learning and understanding. And sometimes it's just around, hey, this is a dynamic. This is a test in life school. This conversation with your cousin, are you going to repeat the grade do exactly what you do every single time and just deal with the negative ramifications of that, feeling burnt, drained, and overwhelmed? Or are you going to answer differently on this multiple choice test? Like, truly, we are constantly learning. And even you protecting your time and protecting your energy and protecting your boundaries can sometimes open you up to be more in that state of whimsy, more in that state of having the space and time to learn new things and have new experiences. You know, if we're feeling burnt out and overwhelmed, like there's too much on our plate, it's hard to have that energy around, oh, here's a class I want to take, or I want to check out some books from the library. And like, you deserve to approach life like that. Like, I know life can be really heavy and really intense, and we're fresh off the eclipses. But when I think of Aries energy and Gemini energy, it's lighthearted, it's youthful, it's curious, and you deserve that for you. Like I said, it's not just 2 hours that you're giving to your cousin, it's 2 hours that you're taking from yourself. And you have the right to your own time, you have the right to your own energy, you have the right to your own mind to devote it to other tasks outside of work or outside of your craft or things like this, or maybe within your craft, just having the space to deepen your craft in ways that feel good. You have the right to live your life. It's Aries season. And you have the right to step into new adventures, sextile to Jupiter. You have the right to shoot your shot. You have the right to believe in yourself. You have the right to be optimistic about your life. You have the right to be confident around your abilities. Also on Sunday, we have the 2 passion planets linking up. Venus in Pisces, exalted, trining Mars in Cancer in its detriment. And even though Mars is less comfy, Venus is more so, this is the bestie energy, right? So we're in tune with what feels good for us to put our energy towards. And again, like I stated, Venus is more comfortable, even though Mars is direct and Venus is retrograde. Dignity-wise, Venus is more comfortable. So it's like, what if I could exert my energy in ways that felt good? What if it didn't have to feel heavy? What if I didn't have to feel drained and taken advantage of and used? Like, what if it could feel differently? What if it could feel good? What if it could feel balanced? You could also find you're feeling intuitively or instinctively drawn to certain financial decisions, to certain people. This could be a passionate date night, okay? A passionate date night. You could be really trusting your instincts around who it is that you are drawn towards. You could really want to put energy towards the pursuit of pleasure, which is a worthwhile aim within this world. And I just want to like echo that sentiment around what if it could feel good? It's not that life will be constantly, you know, good. Like, sometimes there will be hard days with client work and with family stuff and crows outside my window and white chocolate Americano on my shirt. Just, you know, life will be lifey, but believe that you could show up in ways that feel good within your relationship, within your business. Like, I just want to share and thank you all, honestly, because I was so scared to shut down my one-on-ones. Like, you don't know how terrified I was to make that announcement, because I felt like I was letting people down, and I had this deep fear that I was letting people down and people were going to be mad at me, which again, when we have these embedded tendencies within around people pleasing, like sometimes these things can trigger that, where we fear not being accepted, we fear not being liked, we fear not being validated, where we fear being disapproved of. And it's just like astounded me. I feel like I'm still wrapping up the one-on-ones. I'm still booked out till July, so I don't necessarily feel that sensation of space quite yet. But a lot of you within one-on-ones have like expressed to me, and I just want to say it means so much to me, truly. Like, you've expressed to me like, wow, I'm so proud of you for making that decision. Like, that means so much to me that you guys value me as a human being, because I just had this fear. I don't want to let people down. I don't want to disappoint anyone, but it came to a point where I recognized that I was going to disappoint myself if I didn't change something. Like, I was trying to do it all, and there was so much within my life that I was depriving in that effort to try to be everything for everyone. I wasn't able to like be enough for myself, which is my fault, and that's my responsibility. And that's why I took an action within my schedule in order to alleviate that. Hopefully we'll see how I feel in July. But I just want to say thank you so much, because just the response that you all have given around being understanding and just supporting me within self-care astrology and things like that, just being excited around what comes next. It's like, wow, I was anticipating and fearful for this response that was so unwarranted. Like, no one has really come at me like, you mean, cruel, selfish person, how dare you not offer one-on-ones on Daily Common Astrology. Like, I was fearing a response that I have not received. Like, you guys have been so lovely. And it's like, what if it could feel good? What if our businesses could operate in ways that felt good? What if our relationship could operate in ways that felt good? And yes, sometimes to have that energy of it feeling good, Venus and Pisces, sometimes we do have to get Mars with it, right? We do have to take action around it. I did have to shut off my calendar and announce it. You did have to say that to your cousin on the phone. Like sometimes we have to get a little Mars with it in order to get Venus with it, to find resolutions that are balanced and harmonious. And so we have some nice aspects on Sunday. We do have the Leo moon opposite Pluto though, so there could be some like intensity, drama in your day. Even if it's not like drama happening around you, you could be having a more intense response to things. Emotions can feel a little heightened, a little intense. You know, this is kind of the Sunday scary type aspect. But my love, that is our week. The Magic Monday mantra of the week is, I am worthy of standing up for. You are worthy of standing up for. And if this helps you at all, you know, Aries season always makes me think of inner child and younger self. Think about someone treating little you like that, right? If you're dealing with someone who's pushy, who pesters you, who pushes your boundaries, like think about someone doing that to the younger version of you. If that does not inspire you to get on the defense around, hell no, you're not going to talk to my little me like that. Like you're not going to treat me like that. Like that's the space you have to be in advocating for yourself and defending yourself, because no one's going to do it for you. Like be protective with yourself. If someone does mistreat you, take advantage of you, like you're allowed to get mad about it. Again, voice it, be direct, clarify how you expect it to be treated or your expectation is for yourself. But if someone does mistreat you or violate you or exploit you in some way, it's okay for you to be mad. Like in fact, that is a sign of respect for yourself. That is a sign for love for yourself. That is a sign that you are nurturing yourself. You know, Mars in Cancer. Sometimes you have to be your own mama bear. You have to be your own protector of the younger version of you that exists within, that wants space to dream and play and learn and imagine with Sun sextile Jupiter. And you can't do that. You can't give to yourself if you're too busy giving to everyone besides you. And people will take what you allow yourself to give. And you need to check in to make sure it feels symbiotic, it feels good for you, because that will be received by other people. And in fact, pouring into yourself, nurturing yourself, gives you more capacity to pour into those you love, the causes that you love. So as we wrap up this week's astrology, let me know that you made it to the end by dropping below bird emoji as just a shout out to our crow co-host. Or if you're joining from a desktop or you like the word game, just drop below the word crow to let me know that you made it to the end. My Instagram handle is @HaleyCometAstrology. My TikTok is the same. I would so love to connect with you over there. And until we meet again, drink lots of water and stay cosmic.